What's up, everybody? Belligerent here with another Bloodline video. And in today's video, we have a special guest. I am joined by IvyLeeGaming, and we're going to go through some beginner stuff. She's going to ask some questions based on her experience so far in the game. I'm gonna answer some of those questions, and we're going to just kind of have a good talk from kind of covering like a beginner's perspective. So thank you for joining me, Ivy. I appreciate it.
Woohoo, thanks for having me and being willing to work with a noob. We're
For
all a noob
sure.
at some point, right?
Exactly. I that's one of my favorite things to do with the game is helping out the new people. So you've been dealing with the game for how long now? A few days, a week, 2 weeks? I don't know where you're at.
A couple weeks. Like I
Couple
played I
weeks?
played pretty solid for a week on one account, and then I didn't keep logging in it like every day because I was like I'm gonna restart knowing what to do properly. Because I came in, I found the game through a sponsorship. They contacted me, and it was a game I wanted to check out anyway. I should say I knew of the game, and as soon as they contacted me, I'm like, yes, I wanted to try this game anyway. Perfect. And I got addicted to it, and I was playing it way more than I needed to, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to keep going afterward. So I realized I was just messing around on my account, like it's a hot mess. But I was trying to just learn and see how things worked. So now I'm like, okay, now I need to actually sit down and do things properly. But what does properly mean? I guess that's why I'm talking to you. There's so many misconceptions you have because of other games having influence in my head that I'm like, oh, I must have to do this, this, and this first. But is that the right thing to do? That's kind of why I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah, for sure. And then I've heard some of that from other. I haven't had it myself. I haven't had a lot of experience besides Bloodline, but coming from Raid, which I know you have the experience in, and a lot of these, at least what's the word? The reputation of these games being very summon heavy. So I know when I jumped in, it was summon, summon, summons, and yeah,
Exactly.
I was here from day one, and so a lot of it was just a surprise, like, oh man, I really shouldn't have done it that way after the fact because we didn't know it was coming at the time.
That's the problem is like it's easy to assume or the game tells you these steps, but it doesn't tell you everything. It only gives you a little bit of intro for the tutorial. Then you don't really know where to go from there. And if there's a summoning event, you're like, "Oh, if I do all these summons, I get these rewards. Okay, that must be how I start." But what's
Yeah,
like I guess that's what's confusing is you don't really know what's going to be the best for long-term success.
for sure. And I mean, there's a lot of bad instructions along the way. They have corrected some of it. When we first started, the marriage tutorial they gave us was actually inaccurate. Like it wasn't correct for the way that it
Oh
worked.
God, it
So
wasn't
yeah, so
even.
everybody was doing it wrong. But yeah, so where do you want to start with this?
Okay, I guess the
What's your
beginning,
question
the,
for?
like So my conception my all right, my first perception of this game, I guess, when I came in was, "Oh, there's no login. This will be a great game to re-roll in because there's no login until you get growing." So, okay, I can restart and summon and summon and summon until I get to have a really good character at least the mythic level to start with. Okay, sure, great. But it wasn't quite like that, right? It takes a while to get to the point where you would summon. So, what's your opinion on rerolling? I would think this should be a good game to reroll, but is it?
Mm, so I think it can go kind of both ways. It's not the fastest road to getting to the summons, but it really doesn't take that long either. Like it's not a hard road to get there, but I don't necessarily know that rerolls are necessary for a couple of reasons. One of which being, I think the summons are almost the least important part of the game, like your resources, building your gold up, companions, stuff like that. Intimacy levels are really what make this game different from other games. But the other thing is in Bloodline compared to what I've seen in other games is basically all outside of their kits and whether they're a good champion or bad champion, like all of them are created equal. There's none of this S champion or double S
Oh,
champion.
really?
Like all champions come in common and all champions come in mythic and
That's
everything in between.
true.
So you're not. you can re-roll to get a mythic to help you start out, but you can eventually get every champion in mythic. So pulling a mythic level champion um, isn't as significant as say pulling a triple S champion in Eternal Evolution because their champions are specific to their levels. As where
Yes.
in Bloodline, everything, all champions come in all variations.
Okay, that's fair. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then, so I don't, you can re-roll, but and every people that have watched me before know that I've re-rolled a bazillion times, it feels like. But I don't think there's probably not need for the average person to re-roll unless you're just looking for a very specific start to
Oh,
answer
like
your
maybe if
question
there
like
was a
that.
special event temporarily out and you really wanted to get that event hero, you could try to make sure you rolled on that new banner. Like when I started playing, I had the bugs. I like to call them the bugs.
Yeah, that's exactly what I call them too, because
Oh yeah.
what is their actual name is Bloom Uncounted, which I have like
Yes.
I can't even figure out what that means. Um,
Right.
so the special banners are kind of tricky because, and I don't know which direction they're going to go with them. Usually new servers don't get those banner events. Like the first 28 days on is theoretically the same for every server, but then there have been a couple of events where they've put throughout all the servers. So typically
Oh yes, this
new
is
players
server
starting.
based. Ugh, I hate that
hmm
true.
Yeah, there's
All the events
no.
are server based.
Yeah, the only cross server event really is. I mean, they have the cross server challenges, and then there's the PvP stuff that's cross server, but it's all like server specific. And like every server goes through the same first 28 days. Um,
Okay.
to the
That's like
point of
Eternal
where,
Evolution. Okay.
yeah, exactly. So, but then, like I said, sometimes when I don't even, I guess when they consider them bigger events or whatever, they will give them
Mhm.
even to the new servers. So it's kind of confusing
Yeah.
when that's happening and when it's not.
Okay. Hmm. And so I guess that's the good transition there then. The server situation, that's so for me, knowing okay, this has a rotation. So everyone has the same like series of events. Like the first week was what? The summoning type challenge or I guess challenge or no, it's a campaign, right? Campaign and then your level, your might, and then it transitions to the intimacy. Is that the same for everybody?
Yes, but what you're talking, specifically the ones that you named, those are specific to brand new servers. So you will never see the campaign challenge after that first week. It's a one-time
Okay,
challenge.
yeah.
And
But every
then
server, if you go on a brand new server, it starts with that.
Correct, yes. And then the
Okay.
intimacy one that follows that first week, that is also a
Mhm.
one-time thing. You're gonna get so it's
Oh.
basically it's a 2 week rotation of challenges. And typically in intimacy is at the end of those 2 weeks. Your first rotation is a little bit longer and you actually end up getting two intimacy challenges, the one that happens after the first week, and then the one that actually ends the usual rotation.
Okay. So that intimacy, that's well, all right. I guess I should wait backward my thoughts. Servers. So starting, we had kind of talked about this before, but I'm gonna pretend we haven't yet. Starting on a new server versus old servers. My perception coming from other games would be to make sure that I'm on the newest server possible on day one that it opens. It has to be immediately like you have to be there, boom, ready. If you want any chance of really competing to place in events. There's usually some sort of beginner server events, like I guess those are like the challenges in this case, where if you can place, it's a good thing. Or if you want to have a chance to compete in anything that has rankings in the future, you need to be there early to be one of the people that have the most advanced account. Like that would kind of be what I'm used to with like Eternal Evolution. If anyone doesn't start day one in Eternal Evolution, I'm like, go restart right now because you're missing too important of events. How does
hmm
that play in this game?
So like I said, there are some challenges that you only get when it's new, but I don't think it's as important as like what you said, like with Eternal Evolution. Um, there is a specific banner event that all of the new servers get. I think it's in the third week, which is the Loom banner event. Um, I don't think that's a significant enough banner to worry about. They're decent, but not significant. But at the same time, that's 3 weeks in. That first week, and I'll just I know I said it to you when we talked about it before, and I've said it to other people. In my opinion, if you're winning the challenges in that first week, you're probably doing it wrong because most people are going to come in with the assumption that you made, where you got to start out strong. And I've seen people
Mhm.
spending lots of money, and the only way that you're building might to win that might challenge in that first week is to spend lots of money to get lots of summons and pull lots of champions. That's fine in that
Or
first week.
wasting
Hmm?
yeah. I
Yeah,
was like
or
or, like,
waste.
wasting the wrong resources, probably.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. That's fine in that first week to win that one challenge, but unless you're like a big spender, so we'll kind of take that out of it. For long-term health, your best investment is going to come during the intimacy challenge, because in my
Okay, I
opinion,
was actually think
the first thing you should be doing is leveling the intimacy of your Trevane companion. And so typically the people that are winning the Might Challenge, which are usually the same people that are going to win the campaign challenge because they have the strongest teams at that time. They start out. It's kind of like a bottle rocket, right? Like it shoots up in the air real quick, but then it fizzles out really fast as well, because you get the best use of your resources, and you also will be able to build might better and more efficiently for future might challenges if you are creating that mythic companion when the intimacy challenge rolls around.
and does what about the stars, though? Does the star level really matter? Or it makes the journey quicker, right? But to get to,
So the
upgrade
only
someone.
thing, yeah, the only thing that stars influence in this game are the levels. So each star is worth 40 levels. So if you have a 1-star champion, you're capped out at 40 star or 40 levels, and then 80, and then 120, et cetera, et cetera. The stats that it adds, I think it does add small amount of base stats. They're really insignificant. Stars are just mostly for how high you can level that champion.
'Cause I actually went in seeing the I mean, I heard you talk about intimacy being the most important. So I went in and focused the one that I had the highest stars of to get their uh rarity up the highest as well because I thought that would help me progress my people faster. But it's a little bit less about that because it's more about the bonuses they give and the type of character they are, right? Like because you have to use those same types to ascend in the future.
And so you're talking about leveling the intimacy, right? That was what you were asking
Yeah, I'm
about.
saying, like, if
Uh,
I was choosing coming in, my first opinion was or my first thought was I would have to pick the best one as in star level because I was like for my companion, because I thought that would make it quicker to be upgrading my ascension levels of the other characters with their heirs,
mhm. Which makes sense,
but that's not really.
but it's not. No, that's not real. So the reason
Yeah.
that we use the Trevane companion, which is a 1-star companion, is
Mhm.
so in this game there is the marriage aspect of it, where you essentially what it is it's a nifty way of swapping traits from one champion to
Right.
another champion. They call it marriage. You're just trading traits. Now, the 1-star companions, when you create heirs with them, a 1-star companion, you can create 2 heirs a day because the cooldown on a 1-star is only 12 hours. The
Oh.
cooldown on a 2-star champion is 3 days. And then on a 3-star companion, it's a week.
That's terrible.
So,
I didn't even notice.
yeah. So Now there are, there are items in the game where you can speed that up. You can bypass that cooldown,
Right.
but you don't, those you want to save for other stuff that we'll probably get to later. But so the reason that we focus on Trevane and getting Trevane to Mythic is because then you will have Mythic level traits, and you can breed two of those essentially trait feeders, so to speak. You're just going to marry them
Mhm.
off onto your other champions. You can breed two of those per day, and then you can essentially make any champion you get, in a sense, a mythic champion. Now, mythic champions get 5 traits, is where epics and legendaries only get 4, so on and so forth. But you can still, like, you can take an epic level champion and essentially make it a mythic -1 trait by simply putting on the mythic level traits through marriage, because you have the Trevane leveled up to mythic. That's why we use Trevane, the 1-star champion. You get them for free. There's actually 3 1-star champions, 3 1-star companions that you can get, but the other two you don't get for free like you do the Trevane. You can get them for free, but it takes
Okay.
time, is essentially what I'm saying. So that's why we use 1-stars, and that's why the first thing you want to do is level up your Trevane companion, is
That's so
because,
interesting.
yeah, because of that aspect of the game.
Makes sense. It makes sense once you start to learn about where the priorities are in the game, but I guess that's what I wanted to talk about this too. It's like there's so many things you could just assume by like, oh, that one looks better because they have more stars. Like there's so many you would just assume that, oh, that must be a better companion. I must level up that one, but it's not. So that's really interesting. And you're talking about intimacy a lot. So I think that kind of transitions to my next misconception. Or depending on the game. All right, we have premium currency. Every game has that diamonds, gems, something, right?
Hmm.
Every game I've played is so different on where you should spend those. Like in Raid Shadow Legends, you don't touch them for summons, you save them for energy to grind out resources for like gear, more mostly, I guess, mostly gear. In Eternal Evolution, it's okay to use your diamonds for summon for like the first few days at best, but then you better stop and save them for more important things. In this game, like I said, I started off day one with the events that kind of seemed like I needed to summon. So I was actually using all my diamonds for summoning instantly, which I learned was a mistake. So it sounds like maybe the Intimacy Week and those wonderful value packs, or are they wonderful? Is that a good start to using your diamonds?
Yes. So in my opinion, you want to use your diamonds to level, for intimacy, to level, like I said, the Trevane companion. And in my opinion, the best start, especially now in the current state of the game, is to get it to what I refer to as Mythic Plus, or so a lot of people will call it a level 22 companion. So essentially, once you
Hmm.
hit the Mythic level on your companion, you're getting level 16 to level 18 traits on the heirs that you produce. It's kind of RNG as far as like what level they get. If you push that intimacy up, and for a 1-star companion, you're talking 7,000 or 17,001 intimacy. That's when you hit the max mythic, which will get you between level 20 and level 22 traits. So
Okay.
also when you breed, so when you breed a max mythic heir versus a just a regular mythic heir, level 18 mythic, the might gain is almost double. So like a regular mythic heir will give you roughly 1 million might. That's going to vary based on what traits it comes out with, but roughly 1 million might. A level 22 heir will give you 2 million might. So getting that companion up not only gives you all of the benefits that I was just talking about as far as trading around traits, but it also makes it much easier for you to win those might challenges in the future.
Okay.
So that should be the initial spending of the diamonds, is yes, on the
And
intimacy packs during the intimacy
okay.
challenge. Don't buy intimacy packs from anywhere else during the intimacy
Okay, I was gonna
challenge.
say, is there any other places we should be?
So
So
you
ideally, you'd probably
can,
want to start on a server like week one and hold your resources, or that week two once it's starting. But You could be
Yeah,
missing
and
out if you started at a weird time, I guess. I
correct.
guess you wouldn't really
But
know though.
you're also going to hit you're going to hit another intimacy uh event. I want to say in like a week or so after the first intimacy ends. If you want
Mhm.
like your fastest start, you could probably start during the intimacy challenge, depending on how much time you're spending on the game and how fast you are at
Yeah.
grinding stuff out.
Okay.
To have that. So, and then just to one little stat to help with that is you are going to essentially average half of an intimacy per diamond. So if you need to, for example, hit 17,000 intimacy to get your max mythic, it's going to cost you roughly 34,000 diamonds. Some of the
Okay.
is RNG because there's one item that gives you between 3 and 5 intimacy, but if you average that out to 4, that's where we're getting those numbers from.
When we get the companions, are they always a certain rarity, or does that vary as well? Because I feel like some of them started, one of them might have started rare, but no, were they all just green?
They all start at green.
They all yeah, okay.
Yeah. But you hit
All right.
rare like super easy. Like you can sneeze and it
Yeah,
can hit
that
rare
wasn't
essentially.
bad. I
But it's
accidentally
not
just took, I mean,
always,
random ones.
oh yeah, it's not always good to just start leveling up the companions. In fact, I would argue that for most of them, you just want to leave them at common, honestly.
Yeah, because you could really spread out the, if you want to focus one, right? You want to focus like just that one, because that's going to be the most important,
Yeah, and then there's
instead
gonna
of trying to
be
spread it out on all of them.
correct, and then there's gonna be a couple of others um, that have good clan traits that you want to level up, so that's why you level those companions.
Okay.
But outside of those, common is really the most beneficial rarity to you outside of the main champion that you might be using. And the reason is commons make it easier for you to swap traits around, which is probably more in depth of a concept that we can get
Oh,
into
that's
during this
true.
conversation.
Okay. Yeah,
But when you're talking
yeah.
about mixing traits, the common only has the clan trait and one other trait, so it makes it easier for you to mix around traits. And there's lots of videos. I've made 3 or 4 different videos on trading traits. But it makes it easier for those for that to happen. So I encourage most people not to level their companions unless they're going for, unless it's one of those clan traits, and that's going to be like Trevane, you need the clan trait. Yiv, you need the clan trait. I think it's pronounced Yivnian or something like that. I'm
Oh,
horrible with
yeah. That's
pronunciations. Um, you can make
easy.
an argument for the Lionstone trait, which is ambitious to be leveled up, and the Gull Tongue trait, except for Gull Tongue is one of the rare banners. Like you have to get that one from a banner event, as opposed to the other ones are just straight through regular process of the game. You're going to get those. Those were part of the base package when the game started. But the gold tongue
Okay.
trait is also worth leveling. Outside of that, unless you're going for some kind of specific niche comp, you're probably not going to need to level very many of the clan traits.
Okay. All right. I guess I did have another misconception I probably should talk about, or at least not, I should say misconception. You can tell me if it's a misconception or not. But every game I've played that has any sort of campaign, which of course this does, and they call it campaign here, so easy enough. The usually you go in and you push it as high as you can until you can't push no more because that affects your idle resources that you gather daily. But I see that that does have the same, like it has the idle resources here too, in the collect and quick collect. But I have heard people talk about if you push campaign too high, it makes everything else harder. Can you discuss like where that, how that is affected?
So, okay, yeah. So campaign does affect your collection. It, however, does not affect the gold, and gold is more important than the stuff that you're getting out of collection. Um,
Okay.
so like the collection gives you a bunch of garbage armor most of the time and a little bit of bread and stuff like that to help with your districts. But your districts are going to be the most important kind of resource. That's going to be
Interesting.
your,
Okay.
the districts are your AFK gold. That's where the collection is your AFK everything else. Um, and then as far as people talking about pushing campaign and making it more difficult, what they're referring to is the dungeon descent. Um, I am
Oh,
going
I
to
haven't even
say,
unlocked that.
yeah, that unlock. So that should be as far as pushing campaign, you should plow ahead to get to level 8-1. Actually beat level eight
Okay,
one,
for the
so
dungeons.
you can unlock dungeon descent as quickly as possible because the dungeon is going to be your best resources for um, bouquets and rings, and then even
Oh, yeah.
intimacy and companion stuff and stuff like that. Like all of the good resources are in the dungeon, um, mostly for
Okay.
vigor. Like I think of that as the place to get vigor resources. Um, but people say don't push too hard on the campaign because of dungeon. And I'm going to say the theory because I have never seen anything officially stated, and I have not seen any
Oh.
hard evidence, and I have not experienced any hard evidence myself that I could tie directly to the campaign. But people suspect the further you are in campaign, the harder the dungeon is. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I just
Mhm.
haven't, like, I haven't heard an official word. To me, it seemed like it was more tied to my something to do with my might, my combat power, how strong my champions are. But many people swear by the campaign thing, but that's why they say don't push campaign. My response to that is if you're able to push campaign that far, you should be able to get through dungeon. If you're struggling with dungeon and you were able to get that far in the campaign, then you're probably approaching the dungeon incorrectly.
Okay. Interesting.
But you
So it
should
is okay
definitely,
to push, but don't worry
yeah,
too much about a campaign obsessively. Once you get past level 8, it's not that big of a deal.
right. So whenever I start a new account, ever since they put dungeon in, I'm trying to hit 8-1 in the first 24 to 48 hours. Like,
Oh, wow.
uh,
Okay.
and
I
and
could do that.
you,
And on those grindy fun days, so you just play for like 6 hours straight.
yeah, and you can do it. And then so one other, I'll throw this in here since we're talking about the misconceptions. It may not even be one that you're aware of as a misconception, but at least in my opinion, because of trying to push to that 8-1, everybody will tell you from the Senate to always collect bread, 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 because bread helps you build your districts. Until you hit 8-1, in my opinion, you should be collecting gold because you need that immediate leveling for your champions as opposed to bread that's going to take
Okay.
longer. So that's how I have approached it. And like I said, I've done probably over 50 or 60 different account starts. And for me, the fastest way to get to that plateau is to just collect gold, because, the districts is kind of the slow way to get the gold. Um, so yeah, 8-1. And then the only other kind of milestone that I would throw in there is if you're going to spend and you end up getting the challenge fund, which is probably the best bang for your buck in the entire game, then
Mhm.
then you would probably want to hard push for 12 and try to finish chapter 12 by the end of that intimacy event because then you will have gotten all of your diamonds from the challenge fund and you will have plenty of resources to spend on
Mm.
intimacy.
Okay, that's smart. All right. I think I have one final misconception that I think would be a good discussion for this. Or
Okay.
not, or I guess, yeah, I keep want to, I want to say misconception, but I don't know if they're misconceptions yet. um, I would assume when building your character now, like say, okay, you pick one that you really like that's a damage dealer. Who like would you go all in on the levels? Like to push the highest character being your DPS, which I would assume for some things AoE type damage is better, but I would think you focus your DPS as your highest level to help clear things faster, and then the supports can be a little bit lower level. Is that true in this game, or is it more of a balanced build?
I'm going to say it's more about balanced builds, and the reason is, and again, this is one of those things that I suspect, and through my kind of play that I have determined, but I've never put like any, I've never done any specific testing for it, and so I don't have any no, I don't know for a fact. I don't want anybody to think I'm saying that it's a fact that this happens, but um, if you have an unbalanced team, the game punishes you for that because it does have there's some kind of scaling mechanism in there where if you are underscaled to a certain point, they're nearly unbeatable. Um, with proper comps and stuff, you can make it past some of these levels, but if you go in with one kind of soup and this is obviously talking from a beginner standpoint. I have gone through the
Mhm.
campaign with one souped up champion, but that was much further in the end game. But if you go in with like a level, I don't know, 150 champion and the rest are all like at 75, it's going to treat everything basically like it's like it there is a
That's
definite
good to know.
difficulty level that is scaled
Yeah.
there because I have been just hard stuck on a campaign level, and I usually
That's
level my my champions by in like increments of five. I like go up on by five on each of them and try and keep them in the same spot. But like there's
mhm.
a definite point where once we reach that whatever the plateau they have programmed in there, the level becomes
Yeah, it's
significantly
harder.
easier. You know, five
Yeah.
levels
Okay.
as far as stats are concerned is not a significant jump. Like you're not getting a significant
Yeah.
amount of stats from just that small leveling. I've even had it to where I pushed it like one or two levels and it was suddenly like it read it as I was now competent to be on that level, so to speak, and the difficulty
Oh,
scaled down.
wow.
So I'm
Okay.
fairly
You could
certain there's
feel
a
the difference
mechanic
though,
in there
yeah.
to, kind of DPS check you, so to speak, for that.
Cool. That's yeah, I would have not thought that. I would have thought, oh, just go all in on your damage dealer and it'll make it be easier, but actually you could hurt yourself. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Again, like I
Okay.
said, at least that's my experience. So, um, did you have any other topics you wanted to ask about?
I think for the sake of talking about like my misconceptions related to other games coming into this, I think that covers it pretty well, but I guess over on my channel, we can go ahead and do like the full beginner overview where I'll just quickly pop through the areas of the game and talk about what I did and you could help kind of guide
For
in that
sure, for sure.
discussion.
So, thanks everybody for joining us in this conversation. We are going to do a second kind of beginners video. This is going to happen over on Ivy's channel, so check her out. Your YouTube is IvyLeeGaming, correct? That's how they can find you?
Yep.
Okay, and I will definitely leave a link to her channel in the description of this video. So thank you very much for taking the time with me. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this, and like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. I'm belligerent. Peace.